So we're going to talk a little bit about the NHL and a little drama that occurred in one of their games. So during a Red Wings Predator game, NHL referee Tim Peel had an open mic, and he was heard to be saying that he wanted to call a foul on the Predators early, but acknowledged that the foul really wasn't all that much, among other things. And so Peel has officiated 1,343 regular season games. So he's notorious in the NHL. He's one of their, favorite NHL officiates, even if they don't really like him all that much. But he was now fired for his comments. So, Chris, I know that you're a big hockey fan. Are you surprised by this incident? I mean, I feel like referees use makeup calls or call things intentionally a lot, but are you surprised by this in any way?
Yeah, well, no, and I think that's what's the most upsetting because you look at the penalty. It's a tripping call. It's not roughing. It's not a fight. It's not a illegal hit. It's tripping. It's either a trip or it's not. And if it's not tripping, then don't call the penalty. I can see a control the game type of call coming out in a legal hit, a borderline legal hit. A coach mouthing off to a ref, a player mouthing off to a ref. I can see a call controlling the game in that situation. But when you're looking at a tripping call and the ref is admitting, obviously not that he didn't know he was admitting, but admitting that it wasn't that much of a trip. Like, what do we do? Like, call the game. Like, it's not hard. Like it's hard, but it's not. Look, I as you said, Kale, I do love hockey, and it really sucks when this is the hockey story. We had the melting ice in Lake Tahoe a couple months ago. We had the Artemi Panarin situation, which was not Artemi Panarin's fault at all, and it wasn't really that much of a bad look on the league. It was just that's what was in the news, and they couldn't get away from it. And now it's this. And who knows what the actual punishment was, but he's not. He was retiring on April 24th was going to be his last game, and this happened just before March 24th. So probably he was suspended for a month, and they said, just leave. You're done. So now for the last couple of days, there's been video of the refs taking their hand and holding it over the mic to make sure that it's off. There's been calls in the late parts of games that maybe you wouldn't see before. I don't know. It's concerning because to me, it's not Tim Donaghy, but it's not good either. It doesn't feel like the game is legit right now. I don't know.
Yeah, if we're playing the game, something, nothing, or everything, this is absolutely everything because there's an unwritten, in sports, there are unwritten rules. And one of those are makeup calls. We see it in every sport, basketball, football, and soccer, and in hockey where, if there's a bogus call on one end, the refs understand that. They hear the crowd, booing. They hear the players complaining. So at some point, they're going to try and make it square and give the team, a foul call down the line. But that's something that isn't publicly known. That's something that's behind closed doors. I think that's a fundamental understanding between officials, off the field, off the ice, off the court. But the moment that you publicly, blatantly say that you are giving a makeup call to another team, that's where there's milk and egg all over the face of the NHL, where now they have admitted one of their officials, somebody who's been there for years. And Chris, you can attest to this, his final game, April 24th, he would have been able to choose wherever he wanted to go to kind of get his ceremony and be have that, proper farewell. He could have picked any game to officiate and it would have been, a send off, just as you'd see a lot of experienced officials get in North American sports. But this is something now where, he's been banned. So he'll never officiate another NHL game for as long as he lives, even if he wanted to stick around. And it's an awful look for the NHL. And if you're, leagues like the NFL, the NBA, you're just looking back and you're just hoping, Major League Baseball, you're just hoping that this doesn't happen to you, because when fans and outside people, media, everyone else, when they hear something like this, it just confirms, Kayla, what everyone knows in sports. And it's that you will get makeup calls. They do exist. nobody talks about it. No, it's almost like Fight Club, excuse me. The first rule is don't talk about Fight Club. Makeup calls exist, but the first rule is don't talk about makeup calls actually existing.
Yeah, I think go for it, Kelly.
I feel kind of differently about it. I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. I don't know. Because we all know that makeup calls exist, like, just because he got caught saying it, I don't know why. I don't know. This is the probably unpopular opinion, the hot take, but I don't know necessarily why it was such a big deal. We know makeup calls exist, and we know the referees talk about them when their mics are off. So I know that because he got caught, it looks bad and the NHL integrity of the game. But I kind of feel like officiating and like flaws in officiating is part of the integrity of the game. I don't know, baseball has talked about automated strikes and ball calls and stuff like that. And I think that kind of takes away from the game. You expect bad calls and you expect makeup calls, and they are part of your experience in watching.
You're actually in hockey circles, at least on the majority side there, Kayla. A lot of people are saying that this is not that big of a deal. I just disagree because, like, where does it stop? That, like, I don't know. Yeah, makeup calls are a part of it, but wasn't even a makeup call, I feel. This is like a trying to control the flow of the game type of call, which I feel shouldn't happen unless it's aggressive. You know what I mean? Like, if there's an open ice hit, right, and it's kind of near the head, but you're not really sure, and Nashville is starting to get a little bit rowdy, then you call that elbowing or whatever. You got send the guy to the box 2 minutes, you send the message. It's tripping. And he admitted that John Merrill, the Red Wings defenseman, embellished the tripping. That Victor Arvidsson didn't really actually trip him, and he could have called tripping an embellishment. I think that this is a bigger deal than a lot of people are making it out to be, because especially look at what sport it is. All those other leagues can kind of like, with official, because it's not that big of the NFL is the most popular sport in the world, or in the country, not in the world, of course. The NBA has shaken off what is the biggest ref scandal in North American sports history. Mm-hmm. That was a long time ago now.
Yeah. And
the MLB has the least qualified person in North American sports working as one of their most tenured umpires, in Angel Hernandez. And they're able to shake it off. Now, this is the only story in the NHL right now about how an experienced official is talking about making controlling the game via their penalty calls. And I don't know it. And if you watch games, they're officiated differently in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. Sometimes they're officiated differently in the final 5 minutes of games than the first 55 of the games. 55 minutes a lot of the time. It's a problem. I don't really get it. I'm an advocate for an eye of the sky ref in the NHL. I think it will lessen injuries because there'll be less people on the ice. You can kind of see everything. It's not good. It really. I don't like when the NHL has bad publicity, because it just feels like it's harder for them to bounce back from than everybody else.
No, and just to build on that, and when you think about it, the NHL is still trying to establish itself and to gain a larger fan base. They get the deal with ESPN Plus. They'll be in more homes, and for a league like that, I think about them or the MLS or the WNBA, leagues like that, who are still trying to, build the fan bases that we see baseball, the NFL, and the NBA have. Something like this, for the casual fan, they could easily dismiss the NHL and criticize the credibility and say, well, if that ref said it on a hot mic, how many other refs in the NHL are giving calls or controlling, dictating the pace of game with a penalty that probably wasn't justified in calling. So I think that really gives the league a black eye in terms of now it's, it was inherently assumed that makeup calls and stuff like this exist, but now you've heard it right from an official's mouth that it is there, and that was his intention, to go ahead and give a call in order to control, the flow of the game. But I think all three of us are in the sports media world, and if there's anything we've learned, nothing good comes from a hot mic. If you're an official, if you're a player, if you're a host on the media side, it's just you have to make sure if you are going to potentially expose the sport or expose an unwritten rule, you cannot allow that to go public. And now I think the NHL, while I'm sure it might be something that we forget about in a few months, it's still something now currently in the next few weeks that I'm sure Commissioner Bettman will be looking to kind of, sweep away under the rug as quickly as possible.
Oh, yeah, you can bet that those refs are going to be tightly monitored on their mics now. I mean, that is certainly going to come from this. I don't know. Yeah, I just kind of feel a little more like cavalier about it. I don't feel like that it was that big of a deal. And I recognize it was wrong. And so no one should control the game flow for something, I mean, as little as a trip that was like embellished by the players, but players in every sport embellish an injury or embellish a supposed foul so that they can get the call. And so I just feel like the NHL did the right thing. They fired him. They addressed it. They said that they didn't want their integrity of their game to be tarnished. And so I recognize that as a league that does not have that much popularity, that as a league that is a little lower than NBA, NFL, MLB, that this is going to be hard for them to bounce back from. I also kind of feel like it won't be that hard for them to bounce back from, because I just feel like everyone who watches the sport understands this. And I'm sure that a similar situation has happened in other leagues and in other sports. And so to me, it's like, why should this ruin their whole reputation? I don't know that it does, because I think that we've seen it. We've watched it. We know how this works. We know how it plays out with referees. I don't know. I just feel like it won't actually ruin their reputation as the NHL.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Kayla, because I don't know. It doesn't, like, you talk about an NBA situation set similar to this, and then the next story is look at what the Brooklyn Nets did last night. Look at the Lakers did last night. Talk about an NHL situation like this, and then you just switch sports. Like, and I'm not hating on our rundown. That's what we're about to do too. Like that's how it works. That's how the sports media scape makes its money, by not talking about hockey, except for when it's a big deal. And when every time it's a big deal, it's a bad thing, which is now, this is 4-5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Not good.